What is up, everybody, man? Welcome back into the Bluebloods, kicking back up player interviews as we get through spring practice, approach the 2023 season. And we got one of my favorite players in the FCS on today, my guy, Kenny Gallop Jr., Howard defensive back. Two-time All MEAC selection, was a first-team selection this past season, finished second in the conference, 93 tackles for a defensive back, man. I always say this guy is all over the field, was an HBCU All-American selection, man. He's done it all. Coming back for his senior season for the Bison, man. Kenny, appreciate you joining the show, man.
Man, I appreciate you for having me.
Oh man, absolutely, man. So let's. I was doing some research before this interview, and I always like covering FCS is always interesting, man. Some of the best players were so under recruited, so wrongly evaluated coming out of high school. And I was looking, and the fact that I've heard you say that Howard was the only school to offer you a scholarship. Let's take a step back, man. One, how did that happen? And two, what was just your overall process like coming out of high school?
So coming out of high school, I would say my high school wasn't the best my freshman and sophomore year. We started off 1-9, so we didn't make the playoffs, and I feel like coaches really just didn't look around. And I want to say maybe my going to my junior year, I started getting interest. I was playing 707 their off season, and I would start getting interest in different schools and things like that. But Howard, at the time, it was Coach Prince. He was the head coach at the time, and he gave me a full ride, and that was my only full ride, Division One wise, my only full ride. And it's been a blessing. I would like, I'm gonna go where they love me at. So I end up choosing Howard.
That's still mind blowing to me, man. Two, like I said, all the accolades I talked about in the intro, for you to only have one scholarship offer, is that something? I know, it's years down the line. You've been very successful. You're an NFL prospect going into this season. Is that a chip on your shoulder where you think about that every day at practice, throughout games, and it just kind of motivates you to continue to elevate your game?
That's definitely one of the things that drives me. It definitely gives me fuel because I think about it and it's like, wow, Howard was the only school to offer me. So that's one thing I want to always play hard for Howard, you know, and things like that. And yeah, it's definitely motivation because I always feel like I can play with the best, FCS, FBS, like so I have the confidence in myself. So just for having one scholarship like that, it definitely uses it as motivation.
And I've mentioned two-time all conference, man. You got to play early on at Howard. You've been all over the field, coming in as one of the senior leaders. When you take a step back and look at your game, when you stepped on campus at Howard as a true freshman, compare that player to the Kenny Gallup that I'm talking to right now. How has your game evolved over your first three seasons?
Well, so when I came actually COVID, right? So I came, we had like a spring season. So to believe it or not, I really like this season coming up, really gonna be like my junior season, believe it or not, right? But I came during COVID and just to I was working out over COVID and things like that. But like I didn't really get like the X's and O's of college football and things like that. Seeing, I can say now compared to back then, I'm just more smart on the field, seeing different formations, watching film more and things like that. And it helped so much because I react a whole lot faster. So I would definitely say I'm just more smarter. Of course, I was my strength and conditioning coach. They do a wonderful job. So I'm bigger and faster and things like that. But it was just really just locking in more, locking in on film, just really little things. Now I would say protecting, taking care of my body. I talk to Antoine Bethea all the time. One of the biggest things he always told me, take care of your body, treat yourself like a pro. So that's stretching a lot, ice bath, things like that I didn't do when I first came to Howard. And now, I'm starting to do it a lot. So it definitely improved my game.
And I kind of want to build off of that. Film study's so big. I always talk to players. That's the biggest difference between high school and college is the amount of film study, the in depth, the it's how far you go in depth with it. I look at your film, man. You were one of the most instinctual players. You don't get 93 tackles from the safety spot by not understanding where you need to be on the field and understanding what the offense is doing. What is your film study routine? How often do you watch film, and do you have kind of like an organizational way that you break down opponents during the week?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I watch film a lot. And so if I'm not really doing no schoolwork and things like that, after I eat, I just watch film. One thing I always like, I watch like the techniques, the timing and things like different formations, different splits, the receiver, if he, under the numbers or he above the numbers. watching like the linemen, example, how they get in their pass protection versus they run when they running the ball. It just little things like that people don't really know that make a big difference, but it does because it just give me that one step, just give me a one step faster, and it definitely helps. So that's one of the little things I can say that I do to help me improve my game, especially watching film.
This season, Howard took a big step forward in terms of a program being the first co-championship since I believe '93. I wasn't born then. I don't you weren't either. So it's been a long time. What made this program special, and when did you know that it was going to be a special season for the Bison?
When I first got to Howard, it was Coach Larry Scott, first year, and we just believed in them. We have a great coaching staff, and them guys, the coach they pour into us. They push us to be better and things like that. And so, my first year playing, which was the 2021 season, we wasn't the best team, but I knew we was young. We had everybody coming back, things like that. So we knew, and there was little things we were making mistakes off of. So we knew we can build all the mistakes that we used and use it, and like just learn from it. And so we knew coming, to the 2020 season that we had a special group, and we knew that we was gonna make some noise.
And you guys definitely did yourself. That first team all conference. I mean, you were on every all conference, all district team that you could be. What was the biggest thing in your game that you felt like took a step forward this year, and what clicked for you, and what does it mean to be a first team all conference player for Howard?
Well, I will first say like the game slowed down for me compared to my first year to second year. So it slowed down to I had more experience. I seen a lot of things, so it just kind of that will just help me out. And this being selected as first team is really just a blessing. I mean, the off season, I mean, I worked my butt off. You know what I'm saying? I probably be one of the most hardworking guys. So I worked my butt off. So just seeing the hard work paying off, it definitely it's a happy moment for me.
Two of your closest coaches, Coach Douglas, Coach Jarrett, man, you work a lot with them. What is your relationship like with them? And when you look at just their preparation, how they put you guys in position to succeed, I look at yourself, I look at some of the standout guys you've had on defense. Jevin, man, had a crazy year at defensive tackle, also
Right,
coming back.
dog.
What makes those two coaches click for Howard, and what's your relationship like with them, behind closed doors?
My relationship with Coach Douglas and Coach Derry, we both tight, man. They both great guys. Coach Douglas, when I first got to Howard, Coach Douglas was hard on me, man. But he always told me he seen something in me. And one thing about me, I never back down, coach. I always wanted to learn and things like that. And so Coach Douglas, I mean, a great guy, great coach. Know his schemes, things like that, and we just trust him. And then at the end of the day, when we trust him, we do what he tell us to do. 9 out of 10 that we was gonna come out on top. And Coach KJ, man, when Coach KJ got there, just his energy, his juice, playing in the NFL and then playing Virginia Tech, just bringing that atmosphere to us, teaching us the game, teaching us little things, just making us smarter ball players. One of the guys, he that's a great guy all around, man. Spend valuable time with all the DBs, things like treat everybody fairly and things like that, man. I mean, I love both of them guys to death. So they both my guys. I have a tight relationship with both of them.
Kind of following up on that, looking at the staff, as I was looking at Howard's staff coming into the season, there's a lot of young guys at position coaches and to me, a lot of people talk about experience, having a guy who, might have coached for 40 years in the league or in the conference. Is the energy and relationship different, in terms of building those tight knit relationships with a guy who's maybe a little bit younger? Is it more easy to relate to those type of coaches, in your opinion?
You can say that, and that's one thing I love about Howard and then the coaching staff because we kind of got like a mixture, right? So Coach Douglas and Coach KJ, they both work with the DBs and things like that, and but Coach KJ, he bring the energy, understand us, boy, the swag, and then Coach Douglas kind of like the OG, things like that. He kind of run it, but it just you definitely do feel like because they feel where we're coming from and things like that, and the game changes and it evolves. So Coach KJ, he just bring that energy to us. So it definitely helps out a lot.
And I got to talk to head coach Larry Scott. I was at MEAC media day before last season. Got to talk to him. You got Broken Bird and all them. And I had a great
Uh,
time over there. And I love talking to Coach Scott, man. You can see the energy, you can see the focus that he has. What makes him? What is he like behind the scenes in terms of what we don't get to see? I see him in the media. I see him on the sidelines. what is his relationship like with the team? And I guess how would you describe his coaching style in the locker room?
Oh man, behind Coach Doris, Coach Scott, the same guy on the camera, man. He's a great guy. Man, he's passionate. And one thing about Coach Scott, man, he just want the best for us. Things like that. He give us great advice on and off the field. Like one of his biggest things he always say, we got a slogan where we just basically say this good to everything. You're facing adversity, this good. Next up. At the end of the day, you're gonna face adversity. In football and life, things like that. So just for him to say that, maybe I might not be doing good in class and things like that. I might just say good, so I won't panic and stress. Like things like that, just make it a habit. Coach Scott, he just a great guy. There's a lot of things I can really say about him. He's just definitely a great guy, and I love him to death also. He's just a great guy, great mentor, and he the same guy.
I love Coach Scott. It's going to be interesting to see, his progression at Howard. I think he'll be there for it, a really, really long time, and he's taken Howard to heights that they haven't been to in a long time. I was reading a recent interview you did, man, and you spoke about your family and how much they meant to you as a support system, and kind of just what it's like behind the scenes with them. Can you talk a little bit about how much I saw you were talking about your mom and her coming out to all your games and how much that means to you? What is your family support system like, and how much does that really how much credit do they get for the Kenny Gallop that we see get the all conference, be an NFL prospect? When you look back on it all, man, how important were they to your journey to here?
Man, I mean, they're definitely important, man. They sacrifice, they sacrifice all the time. Like this season, I would say coming up, we got a lot of games where I'm from, Tidewater, part of Virginia. They gonna have to, take a plane. So, my father, just working two different jobs just to make extra money to watch the game, and my mom, just being the loudest. I mean, the loudest person in the stands. But man, you feel the energy. You definitely do. I mean, since a little kid from buying football camps and things like that, it just means so much to me. So when I go out there, I definitely, play for the last name on my back, play for my family, and I play hard for that.
Man, that's awesome. And so I expand a little bit on the loudest. If I'm not mistaken, she has cowbells that she brings to the game.
Facts. So if you ever been to a Howard, home football game, trust me, you heard my mom, you heard my aunts and things like that. They come in with their cowbells, screaming to their voice, voice is gone. So it definitely does. And I hear it for sure. I definitely never look. I never look, maybe once, but I never look. But I always hear it. And, you can just feel the energy, you can feel the love. My teammates love her as well. And so, she just bring that energy, and it's just amazing.
I love that, man, because I connect with you on that. When I was playing high school football down at Baker, 7A football in Alabama, my dad went and did a tile job in Starkville, Mississippi. He bought two cowbells, and my grandmother and my mom would bring them to my high school games. It'd be the only two people in the stands with cowbells. So when
Right.
I read that, I had to ask you because I feel you because it don't matter how loud the stadium is, where you're playing, those cowbells are
You
so
can hear them.
distinct. I was like, oh, my grandmother and mom, I know where they're sitting. I don't even need to look.
That's a fact. I promise you, it's definitely a fact.
That's amazing, man. Hey, I've never met anyone outside of Starkville where they're common that also went through that same experience to me. So I had to ask about that because that's amazing. But when you look at just your journey, man, you're coming into it's four, but really three for you, like I said, because of the COVID year. What are your personal goals? You've done the all conference. You're a conference champion. You've been all district. I believe it's EAMC all conference. What are your personal goals for the 2023 season?
First, the first, my personal goal is definitely to lead my team, to a championship, though. So to win the MEAC upright. So, we don't want to be no co-champions, things like that. And then go to Atlanta and win a celebration bowl. A lot of people think, that Howard, that we're happy, just being co-champions. Nah, that's not what it is. We working harder, we running faster, things like that. Like we want to stay on the top. We know a lot of people going, want our top spot and things like that. So, we're ready for it. So that's my number one goal, definitely. Other than that, man, just if I'm saying the future, just to make it to the NFL, to really just get by my mom, my father, anything they want. That's really like the main goal, So I work hard every single day for things like that. That's my personal goal. But number one on my list right now is really just winning the MEAC upright by itself, and then just winning the Celebration Bowl.
Hey man, I love it. I know I've talked to a few guys over at Howard and some of the coaches. Man, I know that's a big goal for you guys. Is to we're dropping off that co-championship. It's going to be Howard Bison are the champions
Facts.
of the MEAC. Shifting more to getting fans to get to know you a little bit better, man. Just some quick hitters here. We'll start with your NFL comp. I talked to you a little bit before the show, man. We've already had a Buda Baker comparison thrown out there, but who do you compare your game to the most, and who are some guys that you watch personally to learn new techniques and kind of look up to at the position?
Well, to be honest, when I watch film, so I like guys like right now I'm playing in the league. I like like Jamal Adams, Darren James, things like that. But retired players, you can say Cam Chancellor. Cam Chancellor, we come from the same area in the Tidewater area. And I also like watching Bob Sanders. So I love watching
Ooh.
his highlight tape. Bob Sanders, Bob. When I feel like when he was healthy, he was one of the top players. So I like watching Bob Sanders. Brian Dawkins, safeties like that who can really, who physical, but they can also move around. They can also cover and things like that. Just versatile. So safeties like them, I love watching.
The fact that you threw out Bob Sanders, I know you're a defensive back safety in your heart, in the
Right.
DNA, because like unless you would really deep dive it, I've never heard that name thrown out. I've done 100+ interviews on this show, so shout out to you for that one, man. Shout out to
Shout out
Bob
to Bob
Sanders on
Sanders
that
for
one.
sure.
What was your welcome to college moment, man? We all have it, whether it's in practice, a game where it's like, okay, this is different. I got embarrassed on that one. It ain't ever going to happen again. What was Kenny Gallup's welcome to college moment?
I want to say like I said, we had COVID, and we had like two expedition games against Delaware State, and I want to say the first game we played Delaware State at Delaware State, and I want to say I was on the sideline. I'm running. It's me and the running back. We're coming. I'm on the sideline. I just tried to hit him with straight shoulder, so I run full speed at him, and he just laid me right on. He just trucked me over. And I was like, well, oh, this is not high school no more. Like these guys strong, things like that. So that kind of like when my welcome to college, I'm like, okay, I need to get in the weight room some more.
Man, it happens to the best of us, man. And I love having defensive backs on the show. Listen, I've had so many defensive backs, and I've had a few say you can't be a good defensive back unless you talk trash. Is that true, man? Are you how much trash do you talk during the game?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to talking to guys. Like I do like to talk, I do because like my thing is my logic with it is like, okay, I like getting the people here, but also it's like it made me stay on my P's and Q's. So like especially in practice, I know, they coming right at me. I'm talking trash, things like that. So I know they coming at. So it made me stay on my P's and Q. I'm always ready. So things like that. But it's just a swagger thing. It just have swag, boost your confidence. That's all it really is.
I love it. And so, would you say you were the biggest trash talker on Howard's team last year, or
For
would you
sure.
give that honor to someone else?
Nah, it'll probably me for sure. People would say it was me. Coach Scotty even said it was me. It was me.
I love it. Hey, you got to own it. The DB, it's either DBs or it's really defensive linemen. Those are the two positions that get thrown under the bus on this show
Right.
all the time. One on one, man. I know you play safety, so you don't get a lot of one on one opportunities. But let's just say you're one on one. The number one mistake a wide receiver can make against you while you're in coverage.
Um, Let me see. It really just depends. Me personally, like when I'm pressed, well, even it don't really matter. Like me personally, I feel like I do better when like receivers like get the dance. So like when they get the dancing and things like that, doing extra stuff, it kind of like, my opinion. I feel like I'm patient. So when guys try to do the extra stuff, they're really wasting time. But I mean, yeah, they probably do just them dancing, things like that. Like my opinion, I feel like especially if I'm playing off, I feel like a receiver should really just kind of like run full speed and just go. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to do extra stuff, you give me more time to react. So that's probably what I'd say.
I was very superstitious as a player, man. My pregame routine had to be down to like a second interval every game. I needed to do this thing, listen to this song, wear this. What is your pregame routine, man, before you go out there and rep for Howard?
So I always get stretched. I always get my favorite trainer T. She always come out there and she'll stretch me every morning before we do walkthroughs and things like that. And so then after that, just really just listen to the music. I like listening to Lil Baby, like different type of rap music, Lil Baby, ESTG, things like that. But I always gotta listen to Lil Baby for sure.
You beat me to my next. I was going to ask what was on the playlist before the game, but when you look at your career, man, you can pick one player on Howard and one player you played against. Who are the best offensive players you've ever had to face in a college game and also in practice at Howard?
So at Howard. I mean, it's so many dogs, man. We got, I mean, like that's one thing I love about practicing and things like that. Cause you playing against top guys. We got guys like Casey Hawthorne, who's very elite. Jared Hunter, who can really come out the backfield and catch, make you miss open field, make you look silly. We had Antoine Murray who was fast, things like that. So we always had a whole bunch of like different guys that that's really good. You know what I'm saying? And things like that. And then I'll say what the best person I went against, going against. Are you talking about like MEAC wise, or are you talking just in general?
Let's see. We'll go. You can pick one in the MEAC, and then you can go outside the MEAC for one. I'll give you three, man. I'll let you cheat on this one.
Um, okay, I can go off if I'm going off last season. So we going MEAC. 11 from Central. He was the real deal. I give him that. He
Davies.
was definitely the real. Yeah, Davis. He was the real deal. He was pretty good. Smart with the ball. You know, he never hold the ball. Like can run, physical. He was definitely the real deal. Um, Shaq. He was good, fast, long, athletic, things like that. So he was pretty good. And really, nobody really else in the MEAC really. And I say Daquan from
Okay.
North State. And I actually know Daquan. Daquan fell. Well, he transferred to Virginia Tech, but Daquan, he was somebody we watched on film a lot. Was kind of okay. We got to slow him down. Things like that. And so them three are probably my top three offensive players that we played last season to me at.
Hey, no surprises on any of those. There's a reason, he transferred to Virginia Tech, and there's another reason, Shaq's possibly going to the NFL, and Davies, we know what he did last year. And then
Right.
the final question, man, I've already spoke about it. I think you're a top five HBCU, definitely in the top of the FCS in terms of draft prospects going into next season. One, what would it mean to you to be the next guy to come out of Howard and be drafted to the NFL? And then two, if an NFL franchise asked you what they're going to get in Kenny Gallop Jr., if they called your name in the 2024 NFL draft, what would you tell them?
Okay, so the first question, man, it means so much because just coming out of HBCUs, you don't see it as much, things like that. But just coming from Howard, when you think of Howard, people think of the school, think of academics and things like that. They don't really look at the sports part. So just coming out of Howard for football, it mean a huge thing to me. It mean everything to me because it's just like a lot of times, even the people that Howard sometimes it's kind of like just doubt us and things like that. Just thinking we out there just to be out there, but it's really guys that have talent that's really good. So that definitely mean a lot to me. And then if a franchise owner, came and talked to me and realized asking me what they'll get out of Kenny Gallop, I mean, they'll get the same person every day, a person that's gonna come work hard, that's gonna be on time, be early. One thing we learned from Coach Scott that early is on time. So just being early, just being a dog, being physical, having great communication skills on and off the field. Don't have to worry about no drama off the field. Things like that. Just the little things, things that's outside of playing football that they'll love about me.
Man, I love the game, man. I love the answer to that question. Man, I just appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time, during spring practices and everything, man, to come on the show. This is all about promoting the players, though, man. So let people know where they can find you on social media, contact you for NIL or any other business opportunities that might come your way, man.
You can find me on Instagram as Kenny Gallop 0, and then Twitter you can go underscore K Gallop. And man, I'm just blessed. Thank you for the opportunity, man. It's blessed to talk to you and things like that. So I appreciate that a lot.
Hey, man, I definitely, hey, man, pleasure's all mine, man. But listen, I got to get up to Howard for a game. I haven't been to a home game, man. I was at the MEAC SWAC Challenge, man. Got to see you guys up close and personal, man. But I got to make it up to Howard for a game, man. I heard it's an experience.
Nah, you definitely got to come, man. Maybe a homecoming. Homecoming might be too crowded though. So I don't know, homecoming. We have some good games at home this year, so you definitely should
Oh
come.
yeah. Man, definitely will do that. Guys, man, make sure to go follow Kenny on all social media, man. Stay tuned. I already know another all conference season is coming, man. That all American list is probably going to have his name as well. Good, but guys, for Kenny Gallop Jr., for myself, and for the Blue Bloods, man, we are out for right now.